This conference will now be recorded.
All right, the time is 2:30. I call the meeting of the Occupancy Tax Board will now come to order at 2:30. Mr. Wilson, would you please take the roll call?
Chairman Moore,
Present.
Member Bitzer, Member Jones, Member England,
Present.
Member Andrade Lacana.
Present.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept the agenda. Motion to accept. Okay, no, you guys speak. So I have a motion by Patricia. Is there a second?
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. At this time, I would like to welcome our two new members, Patricia and Sandra. Thank you guys for being here. We're excited to have technically a full committee now, which is fantastic. Hope you guys have just as much fun as we do on this. At this time, we're going to go through the meeting process, review, and discussion. Kevin will go ahead and present some things. And we're going to actually do a walkthrough on a fake request. That way you guys can get some practice in.
Okay. All right. I have quite a few things to go through, so forgive me if I ramble a little bit. There's quite a bit of stuff we want to talk about, but mainly since we have the two newest members here, we just want to go over a few things as far as how the meeting goes and just the process that we follow overall. So the first document that I've given you is the Occupancy Tax Board meeting process. And I will also share that on our screen for the benefit of everybody. As you can see, we have color coded everything that is yellow. That is either the chair or the board membership. So we could actually go through right now. If you'd like to make a really quick one, would we like to just go through sample?
Sure.
So basically what this is this shows you how you should word the motions.
So if you look at the second page under regular new items, the first title of the row says, I move to recommend to the Finance Committee to fund the blank in the amount of up to blank for eligible lodger's tax on a reimbursement basis of 50% of eligible expenses. So the first blank is what the organization is, who's requesting the money. And then the second blank is how much that we're wanting to submit to the Finance Committee. This is one of the things that everybody stumbles on when it's time to recommend it, because the wording is very specific, because we don't give them money. We can't do any of it. We just have to recommend to the Finance Committee. Since we are not members of the council, we don't have any control. So all we're doing is giving our knowledge and our expertise as tourist related industries or community members on how we feel that event is going to affect us.
But because this is in yellow, it doesn't even affect us because it's you.
No, this is what you guys would state.
Okay, he said everything in yellow was
Is
the
either
chair.
me or you guys.
Okay, that's not what I understood it.
Yeah, no, anything in yellow
Is relevant to us.
is relevant to everybody
Okay.
on the committee.
Okay, I was running the chair as the yellow is what I thought he said.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And since usually when I chair, I normally don't make recommendations. I let you guys do them.
Okay.
But I have in the past because one, with everybody being new and not understanding how the wording goes, I'll jump in there. Or in the case of when we hit COVID and we couldn't award any money whatsoever, I just went ahead and made all the recommendations on it, or the motions on it, just to push it through.
Okay, because I'm a stickler, because I'm a retired teacher. We say I moved to recommend, or I move. We have,
I move to recommend. That is probably
I
the title.
move. Yeah.
Yeah, I move
Okay,
to recommend.
Okay, I just,
And then after we do that, and then we get the second, then we open it up for discussion. So where there's very limited discussion right beforehand, especially when it's trying to figure out kind of how much money, I'll cut it really short because we need to move all of that into after the motion.
discussion.
Since we're, let me ask you, so we are the yellow, but this conversation here will take place by you, Carrie, usually the chair, correct?
These are
Or no,
just
this is Kevin.
the titles. So this is like, if we have an update, I'll say, Kevin, can you give us the update?
Got it.
Right, but like, I think I'm following on your end, like who's going to be making, Kevin will get the requests and you'll read them and then.
Kevin will provide an overview, then we open it up to the person that's making the request for them to.
That
give their-
person will be here in person.
They should be. They don't
Okay.
have to be, but they
Okay.
should be.
Okay, so that's another filler. Okay.
Okay, good. So they don't have to be here. That's, okay.
They
Yeah,
don't
but if
have
you
to.
want the money, then you have to get.
And also in general, we will have a PowerPoint that talks about some of the things that are unique to the funding request
Right.
and just information about the event overall. And as you may remember, the previous meeting that we had in May, that we had a PowerPoint for every one of the items before the person made their presentation. We actually did have one applicant who was not able to attend the first meeting. They still got funded and they were able to make the finance committee, and their application went through, as did the other four that we had during the May process.
Yeah, and they're limited to a 3-minute presentation. Sometimes I'll let them go over, especially if they're newer, because we'll have more information. But after they make their presentation, then we can ask them questions to get more information that we think might be relative for us to go forward on that.
Okay, except for we won't ask them questions until after we move to recommend.
No, we ask questions beforehand.
Okay, so
Once
it'll be presented and then we could ask questions.
to them, yes. So if you need clarification on something they presented, you can go ahead and
Okay.
speak with them.
And that is the body, the OTC body. We,
That's our committee, yes.
Our committee,
The committee
yes.
members are the only ones that are allowed to technically speak during the meeting.
Right.
Anybody can request from the chair to speak. And if it's granted, then they're called up on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But sometimes you need information from them that they may not have
Right,
presented.
right.
Because they didn't think about something you thought about.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happens at the city council meeting. I mean, I went for that and you watched that they would come up and they would present their spiel and then they were able to, city council asked them questions to clarify a little bit more before it was moved to accept or rejected.
Yeah, they stand for questions.
Right.
And then if something should arise after we make the motions and we need more clarification, of course,
Yeah.
it's easier to get as much information that we need to make an informed decision than just to try to assume and guess.
So will that decision be made while they're sitting here?
Yes,
Yes.
It will be. So they will know before they leave what the decision is.
yes, because this is all open meetings. They are present, anybody can be present
Right.
for anything whatsoever, because we never go into a closed session.
Yeah.
Do we have a time frame for a query? You know, is it?
For the committee?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
technically, no.
Okay.
Sometimes we do get rushed if there's a meeting bumped up on us.
Yes, we are scheduled to have a meeting from 2:30 to 3:30 PM, but we can go over it just as much as we go under the time frame.
Okay.
And one requirement is the door has to be open because this is a public meeting at all times. And fortunately, it helps that we have the online ability as well.
Yeah. And the only bad thing is with the door being open and people standing in the hallways talking,
Pressure.
sometimes we can't hear everything.
And we did experience that already. You know,
We did experience that during the May 23rd.
Right.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, with reference to attendance online, will we have the privilege of seeing how many people are online attending?
Yes.
Other than Rita, I mean,
Rita's the only one logged in.
right now, but otherwise, if there's like, 10, 15, 20, 100 people, they
There's
will all,
the list.
okay, good.
Yes. The GoToMeeting functionality can allow up to 251 people.
Okay, there you go.
I don't believe that the Occupancy Tax Board has ever approached near that. There are currently 2 people in the online meeting. There is Ken Dorover, and then there is GTM4. That is the meeting host. That is what I'm operating right now.
Mhm. Yeah, which says you, me,
Yes.
right, got it. Well, that's very interesting, right, that it is open to the public and yet the attendance is rather low.
That's normal with all city functions,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Any other questions in regards to the cheat sheets?
Not so far as this part, so let's continue.
The rest
Or are
of
you pretty
it,
much done because it's pretty repetitive?
it's all repetitive. And I asked for the motions, just like I need motions to recommend the agenda or approve the minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and then to close the business. They're usually the only other ones that are on there.
Okay,
But like I said, it's this wording, and it's the specific wording in this that is what's annoying. And we
that's
fumble
what's
through.
annoying, did you say?
Well, it's because we fumble through it because it has to be very specific.
Oh, got it.
Um,
Well, I move to recommend to the finance committee to fund the blah, 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 right?
Right.
So if we just stick to
Yes.
this verbiage, we
Right.
should be fine.
Yes.
Okay,
But that's the thing, that we have to stick to that. is
Yes.
what she's saying.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, we should just bring it, I'll bring my cheat sheet.
That was kind of the purpose in bringing it out for you,
Yeah.
for the membership.
There's nothing to say that we cannot bring our cheat sheet. That's until we get, until it gets, becomes second nature for us.
Yeah. Well, and I've been doing this for, 6 years now, and I still have to read it.
Okay,
Okay. Good. I can fumble through most of it, but it's still easier for me to read it.
okay. All right, great, thank you.
All right. So now moving on.
And I do have a PowerPoint that will explain the lodger's tax process a little bit for the benefit of membership.
Will we get a copy?
I will certainly email you a copy.
Awesome.
If you follow. The workshop that we're working on right now, we've gone over the cheat sheet, and then there are a few things that we're going to go over with this PowerPoint, including the purpose and the overview of lodger's tax, the requirements for people who put in the lodger's tax funding request that we're going to be looking at during the August 16th meeting, is the funding process, the approval process, the point scoring system. This is on the sheet as well. What is an eligible expense? What's an ineligible expense? And then the reimbursement process. And we have a sample funding request later on that we're going to look at. It has some eligible requests, some ineligible requests, and Carrie got here before the meeting and caught most of them. I basically wrote it up so there were some eligible, some ineligible, and kind of just a practice guide to get you guys ready for the process, because I can almost guarantee you every application that we're going to get during the August meeting, there's going to be at least one expense that isn't really eligible under the procedure.
Most of the time.
Yes. Okay. So we'll go over the purpose of lodger's tax. Lodger's tax is sometimes called a bed tax or an occupancy tax. We use occupancy and lodgers pretty interchangeably in the city of Roswell. In previous municipalities I've been in, it was called lodger's tax. And the lodger's tax, when you go to a local hotel, you pay a 5% tax on top of whatever the price is and whatever the state GRT is. And that 5% is what we're dealing with. There's also a convention center fee of $2.50 that some hotels do charge, but that goes to funding of the convention center. It is not related to the occupancy tax for it. And lodger's tax is not available to fund, establish, or host private events or pay operational or administrative costs associated with those events. You'll notice the use of the word private, And there's an important distinction because the city has used lodger's tax for some of its events where it expects a lot of people to be staying in hotel rooms. The UFO Festival is certainly one of them. Funding for the private events, it's available on a first come, first served basis, and it's not guaranteed to any applicant. As the COVID-19 pandemic showed us, there were a lot of people who just did not get funded because there were no events, or the funding was just suspended for probably, was it a year and a half, Chairman Moore?
Yes.
And then funding limits per organization or event are set every year by city council. For this fiscal year, the city council set $100,000 that we can use. During the first round of applications, we had made certain recommendations. I believe we stayed under $50,000. The Finance Committee did bump up some of those requests, and the total that was recommended for funding on the reimbursement basis is $59,000. So that means coming up in the we'll have $41,000 to work with. Now, the $59,000, there's no guarantee that all of that $59,000 is going to be reimbursed to the 5 applicants that we had during the first half process. But we have to go in assuming that none of that money is available, and the $41,000 is the only money that we can go with. All right, any questions before moving on to the next? All right, and the applicant requirements, they're to complete a lodger's tax funding request by the applicant. Well, deadlines, last time around it was in May 13th. This time around is going to be August 5th for events that are taking place for the first 6 months of 2023. Now, it says must attend OTB meeting and make a presentation. They don't necessarily have to, but it's highly recommended you speak for it if you're going to be looking for public money. And that meeting, as you guys know, is scheduled for August 16th. I hope to see all of you there. Applicants are advised to attend the finance meeting, and that meeting is, with this one, the timeframe is going to be September 1st. And then it's helpful to attend the city council meeting, which is going to be on September 8th. And all advertisement marketing, it must include the phrase paid in part by the City of Roswell Lodgers Tax Fund. And there is a logo that is on the website that should be put on marketing materials, t-shirts, etc. Any questions before moving to the next one?
What is the logo?
The logo is basically the Roswell City logo, and then a half circle text that says paid in part by City of Roswell Lodgers Tax.
Oh. And if they don't put the wording on there, they don't get the reimbursement for it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a requirement.
And we try to let them know through the documentation and through the award letters as well. But it's a small detail, but it's an important detail because we want to let people know that city funding went to that. We want to be as transparent as possible.
Mhm.
So a moment ago, when you talked about the next meeting, August 16th,
Yes.
then I felt like you were following along with saying that we also needed to be at the finance meeting, or we also needed to be at city council, or you're still back with the applicant requirements?
That is discussing the applicant. If you wish to attend the finance meeting or the city council meeting, you may do so. There's certainly not a requirement. Chairman Moore has made a habit to attend those meetings.
Okay.
To represent the OTB.
There's usually a question or 2 or 5,000 from the finance committee members, and trying to ask why we did what we did.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I've been to one where I haven't been asked at least one question.
So it behooves us to really be there. And
It does, but I mean, again, you don't have to be. They can go ahead and move on with what they have to do without us.
but for sake of the clarification and or for the rationale that we took possibly in case of an inquiry, wouldn't it behoove us to be there?
I take it,
Except we're not really talking, you would be as a chair?
it would be whoever they decided to call on.
Huh?
Again, it's an open meeting and they can
Right.
call anybody on the floor.
Wait a minute. Anybody with respect to a question regarding the lodger's tax, wouldn't it be directed to any of us if we were to attend? Or they can't just randomly ask someone else that's not, has no
They can
understanding?
randomly ask anybody.
Yes.
It's
But
Right.
the finance,
Oh.
but the finance committee wants to make sure they use their time effectively. So they're going to ask the appropriate person.
Okay.
And for just clarification, during the June finance meeting, both Chairman Moore and I were there to answer any necessary questions that happened. I don't believe I was called on during the meeting except for a small thing in one of the applications. And Chairman Moore might have answered 2 or 3 questions. But a lot of it was, well, what was your thought process? And they gave Chairman Moore the opportunity to elaborate on that thought process.
Okay. Because
So how often are those? Once a month?
The finance committee meetings are once a month, but generally they only consider the lodger's tax funding requests after an OTB meeting where those take place. So the September finance committee meeting is going to be when they look at those August 16th recommendations that you will hopefully make.
yeah, because we have no, I mean, unless we're making recommendations, there's no other,
Right.
we're not really on their agenda at all.
Right. That makes sense.
Got it. And as far as the city council, these have always been placed in the consent agenda. Once they're in the consent agenda, there's no discussion unless somebody specifically wants to discuss something or they have to pull it out of the consent. I've never had anything pulled out of consent.
Okay.
So
And I don't know, unless they started changing, I don't know if I'd ever want to go back to a council meeting. That one was really long that I was at.
So,
It was 12:15 in the morning.
yeah, I don't most of the time go to the city council
Okay.
in regards to these. I
Okay.
did at the beginning and then I realized it was all consent. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah, then it was kind of like.
but again, it's an open meeting, so it's your prerogative if you want to be there.
Right.
All right.
Any other questions? All right. Now funding, as we've talked about, that's the reason that we're very specific in that motion text. Available on a 50% reimbursement basis of eligible expenses. There are no advance payments allowed. We do not hand anybody a check and just assume, well, have a great event. They have to give us pretty rock solid documentation that we spent this and we spent it in the appropriate categories. And the categories we're going to look at later on. And there is a separate funding allocation that is possibly available for some events, for lodger's tax funding, for police, fire, EMS, or sanitation. And we did discuss using that fund a little bit, I believe, when the Eastern New Mexico State Fair had their application process, because obviously that is one of the largest events the city has, so they're going to have security.
Yeah. So, and that's usually, it's the really large events. So in the past, it's been the UFO Festival, the fair, and Hike It, Spike It, because those being the 3 biggest events, they all have to have the security. And so we've looked at it there.
Okay. So question then, you're saying that there's a logo that says paid in part. Okay, but they're asking for reimbursement. Why would they put your logo on there if they don't know if they're going to get reimbursed yet? I'm just trying to track.
Because if it's eligible.
If it's eligible.
But
it's
they're
eligible.
not. Okay, so they're getting approval first, then they save all their receipts, and then they get 50%.
Yes.
Okay, so approval first, okay. I was thinking if they're not really sure if they're getting their money, why would they have to put the logo?
Well, they're not really sure. They're just gonna, yeah, but I guess it's just protocol, you know.
Well, you couldn't really
I'm
just put it on there. No, you wouldn't just really.
When they bring it here and we go through it and we look at what their eligible expenses are, once we go through that, then they know which ones they can. And when we go through the examples, I can point out some of that. So that way you can see why it works. I mean.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, I mean,
The rest.
why would I advertise something like that if I didn't know if I was getting the money? That's how I was looking at it. It just seemed like, and then my event's over and I didn't advertise, so I don't get any money anyway. You know, I was just trying to process in my head. So, okay.
All right, moving on to next. The approval process, the OTB, the Occupancy Tax Board, that is you, meets at least twice a year to make recommendations for funding requests. This year, because we restarted the process and it was an awkward timeframe, we're going in May and August. Next year, we're going to probably get back to the regular scheduled program of April and October.
Okay.
Now, the recommendations, as we've talked about from OTB, are only recommendations. they go on to the finance committee. The finance committee can approve, deny, or change the request, or even table it. And if they move the request on in any form, it then goes to the city council. The city council has the same prerogative. Once the city council approves something, it is finalized. The mayor then signs off on it. And then it's our job as the city, or my job as the occupancy tax board representative, to send out the award letters. And none of the 3Ps, placement, publication, production, can take place until that award letter is in their hand or in their email inbox. The applications are considered in the order that they are received. So first come, first serve. So if somebody submits theirs at 11:45 a.m., they're considered before the one who files at 11:47 a.m. And that's the reason why we go in the order that we did. The Wool Bowl was the first to submit during the May process. So that's why they were the first to go ahead during the OTB meeting. They were the first item for lodger's tax on the finance and on the consent agenda on the city council meeting that followed.
That's fair.
Yes. And then the OTB members, they'll use a point system in the decision making, which is on the next slide. But any questions before we go on? All right. Now, occupancy tax board members are advised to review the applications prior to the meeting. You'll be sent a link to the full agenda at least 72 hours in advance. I would advise everybody to look at those and save any and read through them, because I know that you'll have some question on it. And if you're waiting until the person's presenting during the meeting, there may be a detail that you'll miss, or the decision-making process will be prolonged because you're reading through things. So the advice is to look at everything before you come to the meeting. So that way you'll have some idea what questions to ask, what information you want to know.
And I'll take it even one step further. I get my packet ahead of time and I get my full packet. So that way I'm not waiting for him to print it and hand it to us here. I'll go ahead and get with Kevin ahead of time after it's been available, come up here, pick it up. So that way I can spend hours going through it and doing my evaluations and my scorings and knowing exactly what it is I'm looking at. I would suggest doing that. And then make sure that you bring that with you if you do that, because he won't print you another copy.
Yeah, and the link that I provided on Friday, that was the full agenda of this workshop. I will do the same for future meetings. I try to get it to you as soon as possible. We're required by the Open Meetings Act to have things posted at least 72 hours in advance of the meeting. So that means 2:30 p.m. on Friday. That has to be on our website and ready to go. And now we'll go over just the 100 points that you'll look at. Let's see. First, we've got the return on investment. How much does this give back to the city of Roswell? Historical performance, 20 points. What is this done in the past? Is this reliably a good event? Cost of city services. Are they going to be using a lot of city services for this? Road closures, fire security. There are a lot of events that aren't going to require any city services at all. For example, some of the music events that we had during the May, they're being held in locations that already have most of that stuff taken care of. There are no road closures involved, no barricades that need to be set up. It's so on and so forth.
So if I may, very quickly, the cost of city services, for example, ranges 1 to 15, 1 being the lowest, 15 being the highest.
Yes, if it's basically an event the city doesn't have to worry about all that much, then it's probably going to be 15 points. If it's something where the city is going to encumber a lot of expense and a lot of work, then that's going to be lower on the list. Other economic impact, what do you see, like as far as meals, shopping? Our philosophy is heads and beds. I'll get back to that later, but we generally want to have items that are going to get people into Roswell hotel rooms. General attendance, 1 to 10 points. We want to make sure the events are well attended. If we have an event and 35 people show up and we gave them $3,500 in lodger's tax money, that's not going to be a good use of the money. Timely document submission. Generally, if they're very early and they have all their ducks in a row, they're going to get high points. and then the uniqueness of the event. And everybody will do a certain type of event, but we like to have individual events. And we had some very different events during the last time. We had a triathlon, we have jazz festivals, we have fairs. But basically, it's got to be something we try to look for things that are unique and will draw a crowd. But are there any examples that you would think of, Chairman?
Yes.
And we don't want to promote a specific one, so
So there's two events that happen in September. They're both relatively close in nature. Which means that it doesn't make them unique. They're also more local events than they would be considered a tourist event. I don't want to call out names because I don't think it's really fair to. But those would be like two prime examples on it.
Right.
And we've had some in the past, which since this festival's not here anymore, the Fiddle and Griddle would be one. It was music and food. And so it was a lot like some of the other events that didn't have. And again, it was another local event and not necessarily a tourist related event that didn't bring anybody in.
On that note, Carrie, so with this point system, are we going to have, Kevin, an example of using the point system, as you mentioned earlier, regarding something? Will we have one example where we can use the point system right now? Let's just say right now.
we can go through it on the
By using one particular event and then.
and we can go through it on the funding application that I've provided. We won't get to all of it because I made a very basic form. I didn't create additional fake documents for it. So we're not going to have a lot of timely document submission with it per se.
Yeah. Well, just on the basis of what Carrie said right now regarding a particular local event that, let's just say for the most part, doesn't really bring in a lot of heads and butts. So in terms of return on investment, I'd probably be like, one or two. Is that a good assessment of my thinking? One or two would be at the lowest.
Yes, one being the lowest, 25 being the highest.
Exactly.
And so the goal is to get it as close to 100 points.
Right.
The higher the points, the
more probability of them getting their funding. The
Yes.
lower, then the less probability of them
Correct.
getting their funding.
And we're all as a committee scoring it, or we're all doing our own individually? See, so that what you may say, you may think it's, a 2, where I may think it's a 10.
Yeah.
And so then my question is, when you talk about the historical performance, my question is, do we go back after events or say the next year, do we have that documentation saved? Next year they decide, and it really didn't bomb, like you said, maybe there's only 35 people. Do we really want to give them money the following year if they request it again and they didn't have very many people? Is that something that we look back at also, the historical performance part of it?
Yeah.
So when in their application, it will have their historical information. They're supposed to submit it.
Okay.
And then the last one, the city provided that report from the hotels.
Okay.
Which was the first time, which is, by the way, I love it, which was helpful to show, if an event says that they sold 1,500 rooms and we know that they didn't.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking when I look at something like that. Am I going to look at one that happened a year ago or 2 years ago and they're going to try it again and I want to give them money, but yet I look at that and go, they didn't really have that great success.
Right. And it also says on the application as it's being presented, it also says last year they were awarded X amount of dollars. It used to say, since we haven't had anything last time's request was a little bit different because there was not a whole lot of the previous year's data on it. But in the past, it said we awarded them $10,000. Out of that $10,000, they spent $6,400.
And then what happens to the remainder of the money? It's still already awarded so that group gets to keep it?
No.
Or it comes back?
Because it's a reimbursement basis.
That's true.
It doesn't come back to us, by the way. It goes back into.
Right, but I just mean comes back. It doesn't stay with
Right, they don't get it.
their event or whatever.
But that is something that we look at. If,
Good.
if
Okay,
if
that's
we
what I wondered.
continuously award them what they're asking at their 50%, but they never meet their
Right,
goals,
right,
then it's a good reason to reduce it down.
right. That was my question with the historical performance.
Right, and on that same note, so here we are, we do our due diligence, we pick up our packets 72 hours, pardon, 72 hours prior to our meeting, and that point system is on there already. Will it not be?
Yes.
Okay, so our point system will be on there. And I don't think that we'll have all of the information with our packet, or will we? In other words, will my decision after listening to their presentation and extra documentation and such, can it possibly change the point system from what I did to now?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
A presentation can absolutely change the point system.
Yeah.
And also, they may submit additional documentation during the meeting, which then becomes part of the public record. But yes, there are certainly things that can happen at the meeting that would change your.
And that would be the purpose. My thinking
That's the
is that I would want to be there because it may sway somebody by being there in person.
Absolutely.
If I was doing an event.
Yes.
So that's
A personal appeal may add a few points.
right, right.
Right. And
Cheers,
so,
whatever, enthusiasm.
and so like, if they're saying that they sold that 1,500 or filled 1,500 rooms, that's where you would flag your
Right.
packet, because then we need to ask questions. We need to get more information from them. And so, yes, I mean, it's completely flexible and fluctuates all throughout the entire meeting. Because like, if you noticed last time I came in, I had all mine done,
Yes.
but as they talk, I'm changing and I'm calculating and modifying as I'm going.
But what was really cool about it is that I noticed that you were already prepared. You had all these numbers and I felt so inept, and I'm thinking, okay, what did I miss? What did I, where? And however, I was not, aware of the prior preparation of this, but that's how you acquired that information. You took the time prior to that and so forth. So this is making me feel much better.
Which is the whole reason of
more
going through
qualified.
this.
Yes.
Again, because even Bonnie and Justin haven't really sat through anything because we went through COVID.
Yeah.
So we didn't have all these processes. There was a whole bunch of stuff that we haven't done in a long time. And, even I had to do a refresher because it has been a year and plus since I've done some of this.
Well, this is very helpful. That is very helpful. So, okay.
All right, moving on to the next. This is going to be the eligible expenses. Now, we talked about heads and beds earlier. Eligible expenses are advertising, publicizing, promoting tourist-related attractions, facilities, and events. We're looking at promotion that's placed 30 miles or more outside of Roswell. So that's generally more than that. We have an opportunity to capture hotel stays, heads and beds. So that's why we want marketing to go more than 30 miles outside of Roswell, because if we're only drawing Roswell people, we're not generating any lodgers tax. That doesn't mean it's a bad event. It just means it's not a good event for lodgers tax funding. So that marketing can be pretty much anything that's 30 or more miles outside of Roswell, including radio, TV, newspaper, and magazine ads, posters, brochures, flyers, postcards, other marketing materials, the postage to send those marketing materials, also website ads, social media ads, other internet paid advertising, and generally there are a lot of examples. There are some things that happen during the event that are eligible as well. Free t-shirts for participants or attendees, security and/or police service, fire and emergency, and sanitation, which we kind of went over a little bit. Any questions on the eligible expenses?
I do have one. Just, if I get a copy, we do have a copy of the application as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That was because that ties into everything else that we're doing.
Yes. And page 6 of the lodger's tax funding request, which requires the applicant to print their name and sign that they have read and understand the content provided. It includes the city's lodger's tax policy, which outlines the same things that we're going over right now. So they should be aware of that if they're going through the documentation. And then this is going to be 2 slides because there's a lot of stuff that people try to claim that's not eligible. Any advertising, publication, or promotion of the event within 30 miles of Roswell. So that's when we're looking at like local radio stations, local publications, et cetera. Administrative operations or event management costs, including marketing firm costs, costumes, payment for entertainment other than placed advertisement, equipment rental. A lot of the stuff you're seeing, this is basically things that are paying for the event. We do not use lodger's tax to pay for an event, any portion of running the event. It's paid to promote the event.
Well, that's refreshing to me from this standpoint, because you're practically, if it was eligible, you're pretty much doing it, at the cost of the city. Do you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Which
And
is
basically the city would be subsidizing a private event.
exactly.
And it's not fair to somebody who's not using city dollars because basically their operating costs are lower and they're kind of on an unfair advantage. Going on with ineligible expenses, food or beverages provided for entertainment, judges, contestants, or workers, or as hospitality, gifts or in-kind expenses, lodging or travel for anybody involved, monetary awards or prizes, programs that are given during the event, facility rental, thank you ads following the event. Basically, we're not paying for any portions of the event other than the marketing in advance.
Well, what raises the flag is gifts or in-kind expenses. That is a little bit gray, because I could say I'm supplying all these T-shirts. To me, that's a gift. Of course, I understand what you guys are talking about, if it is to a particular person or leaders, but isn't a T-shirt considered a gift?
That's why it's specifically mentioned in the policy. That would be an exception. That would be an exception to the gift.
Oh, okay.
So like, there's one event, they will give out lapel pins. Those are not eligible because that becomes a gift or an in-kind expense because they're giving them away. Which goes with this. It's the same notion as a T-shirt.
Yeah.
But T-shirts, they're looking at logos big enough, people can see it, they take it, they wear it home, they're advertising at home.
Okay.
And that's why T-shirts have been specifically taken out of that.
Got it. Okay.
And generally, a lot of events that we work on do have T-shirts. The Bottomless Triathlon is one example. Of course, they're going to have T-shirts that they give away for everybody who signs up for the event. Any questions on ineligible expenses? Okay. All right. Well, the reimbursement process, and this will be the last one. The people who put on the event, they're required to complete and submit the reimbursement form and the supporting documentation, which is available online within 90 days after the event to tourism@roswellnm.gov. We want detailed proof of payment for each eligible expense. They can't just say, yep, I paid for that. We want credit card receipts. We want canceled check stubs, et cetera. Copies of ad scripts to show use of lodger's tax wording. So if you hear a radio ad and it mentions lodger's tax, that's one of the things they're doing to ensure that they're going to be reimbursed for 50% of that. We also want an event report with the survey results, including information on the attendance, and then a financial statement with the budget. And generally, we want events that are close to breaking even. We don't want to add a percentage to the profit margin for an event that is just making money hand over fist. We want to be able to support events that might not be able to come to Roswell without lodger's tax.
Okay, event report with survey results, including in attendance. How do you explain that one? What would be the proof of, tickets sold? It takes me back to this gentleman from the fair.
It varies depending on the event. Some of it it depends on how they ask their surveys.
Yeah.
Some people will use a survey monkey. Some people will ask people at the event. Did you stay in a hotel room? And we sent some of those very same ones out during the UFO festival asking, did you stay at a Roswell hotel? How many nights? So generally that's up to the event organizer to survey how many of their participants did stay overnight. And in many cases, they will actually be able to provide the hotel certificates because they reserved a block of rooms for some of the participants, like say say the Roswell Symphony Orchestra, for example. Some of the people who perform in the orchestra are from out of town, and part of the supporting documentation that they provided were the room blocks and the receipts for that. So that's one way that they can show at least part of the hotel rooms.
So are you only on that survey listing hotels? Or did you only stay in a hotel?
Now
How does that wording go on that Survey Monkey? Because to me,
it's up to them, but yes, I see if you stayed overnight
in short-term,
facility, short-term.
I house a symphony player every time.
Yes.
Every time they have symphony, I have one that stays for the 3 or 4 days at my house. And I'm thinking, depending on how you're doing surveys, how you're doing those numbers, you may still be losing some of those people that, and I mean, both my rooms were full with guests from Airbnb. So for the UFO festival. So if you're not including that, we're missing some numbers.
Well, it behooves the organizer to include that in the survey.
Yes.
Most of the organizers are looking at that and they're asking that
Okay.
to try to get it because they want those numbers.
They want those numbers as high as possible.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like a survey thing that you give them along with the application and all this other stuff that says you need to.
Years ago, there was a specific form that had to be filled out that had very specific questions that they were supposed to do. But that has gone away because doing it electronically, doing the Survey Monkey, if you're a ticketed event, ideally you're asking those questions when most of them are paid with credit cards. So you've got, the billing zip code. So you know that data.
Yeah.
But yeah, most event organizers are aware that there's the B&Bs and the Airbnbs so that they can try to get that information too, especially now that those groups are paying into lodger's tax.
Yes.
Whereas before they didn't pay into lodger's tax, so it didn't matter.
Right.
Okay. It just, to me, it seems a little watered down, but the symphony, I mean, they could provide you, but other areas, they really can't. They could say, yes, we did survey, but what's to prove it? That's just the way I see it. I mean, I'm just looking at it from a more.
So like Main Street Roswell, one of the ways that they get people to fill out their survey is that they give them something. You come over here, you fill out this survey, we'll give you a T-shirt or we'll give you a lapel pin or whatever. So they're trying to attract them to do the surveys because the event organizers understand the needs of those surveys.
That proof of some sort. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the
All right.
most part.
Well, it's so hard that's one of those areas where it's so difficult to really prove. Unless, I mean, and the other side to the coin, I should say, is that that information that you did provide with respect to the hotel reporting, that was very good. So, I mean, you could see the uptick and the downtick in that relative event, and that would jive with what they say, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and generally you can't account for, we can't say, oh, well, we know that you booked exactly 527 or
right. I know,
because
it's not tangible.
It isn't tangible in some ways because we don't know why somebody stayed in a hotel, for instance.
Well, and a good example is the month of May because you have NIMI graduation, you have the high school graduations, and those are bringing in people. So if you have an event during the same time a graduation is going on, you don't know if where those hotel rooms go.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And mainly it's there because we don't want to be wildly off. We don't want somebody to say, oh, well, yeah, we booked 8,000 hotel rooms. That's not possible.
Right. Thank you for.
All right. And then next on the items, we are going to go something. Oh. Okay, and this is something that you guys do have. It is, this is the sample lodgers tax funding request that we're going to go through. And you'll see in a lot of ways that this obviously is not a real request. This is a concert taking place on April Fool's Day from the April Foundation called Sample Event. And we're going to have a concert April 1st at the Wool Bowl. John Doe is organizing it. He is available at 555-1234. It's not at the website, but it is the address for the Wool Bowl. Page 2. Now, John has requested $2,500. That would be 50% of the eligible expense total. So we're hoping that he claims $5,000 in eligible expenses. This is an example. This is an example only, this top one, the Dallas Morning News. We just show kind of like what it is overall, but this is not included in part of it. At the suggestion of Chairman Moore, we're probably going to alter this a little bit and gray it out so we don't make the mistake of adding that in.
Because I do that frequently and then I have to go back and take it out.
Okay. Now, we've got some marketing materials that John has claimed expenses for. He's got some ads scheduled to go in the Roswell Daily Record and New Mexico Magazine. He's got some radio ads with KCDY. He's built a registration page for the concert for people to buy tickets. And he's got 500 flyers that he is putting all over Roswell. He's also looking for expenses for the 5 security officers with 1,400, and he's looking to print up 150 T-shirts. 50 of them are going to be for participants, and then they're going to sell 100 of them for $6 a shirt.
Okay. So at this time, with you guys being new, looking at this page, do you see anything that would not be an eligible expense?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go. Give me what you got.
No, ineligible.
Right.
Roswell Daily Record,
Okay, and why would that be ineligible?
because it is within 30 miles.
Okay, so that 840 would be gone.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, anything else?
The magazine would be okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Keep that one, the New Mexico Magazine.
Right.
Okay.
The other ineligible, I'm thinking KCD, is that here, isn't that here in Roswell?
See,
That's what
So this would be what I would ask them specifically.
Okay.
Where is KCDY? What is
Right,
it? Who's that
right.
radio station? It's one I don't know of.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think it is here, but I'm not 100% sure.
So if it was, say, in Dallas, then it would be okay.
Yes.
If this was a Roswell one, it would be a no-go.
If
Right.
that's a Clovis one, it works. If it's a
Right.
Carlsbad one,
Right.
it works. If it's
Right.
at a Ruidoso, it works.
right, and it is a Carl-fed radio station.
I
Okay.
had dealing with the C. I was going Clovis or Carlsbad.
Yeah, good.
Good.
So this is okay.
Uh-huh. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, registration page 247webhosting.com.
Okay.
I would say it's ineligible because that's part of their own overhead expense.
That would be correct. So when it comes to web hosting or websites, it has to be an ad placed on somebody else's site.
Okay.
So if I was doing a triathlon and I had my own webpage, it wouldn't count. But if I put my triathlon information on an Ironman page out of Hawaii, I don't know where Ironman is.
Yeah.
It would count because then we're going to get all the Hawaiians over here.
Like runnersworld.com.
Right. And I've had that with people staying at my house that have done like tennis tournaments and stuff from out of state because they're tennis players or they do this or they're a runner or whatever. They did what's the ruck, runner's ruck thing, the backpack thing. And so, but they were from other states and they had heard about it. So that, okay.
All right.
Anything else?
The distributed to Roswell, no, it's within 30, well, no flyer, I would say no. If the flyers,
That would be correct. It's not eligible because they're distributed here inside Roswell.
correct.
If they distribute them in Artesia, Carlsbad, or anywhere else, then they count. If they mail them out. So let's say it's the orchestra and they're doing a mailing list. And they've got people who attend the symphony that live here in Roswell. They've got people in Santa Fe who attend. They would have to provide, yes, they have to separate it out. How many was shipped out? And then they'll pay the
We
postage.
sent 600 of these, 400 went to Roswell addresses.
Right.
So they're going to submit for the 200
Right.
that are eligible.
Right. And that makes sense.
And
Got it.
that they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
got it.
All right. Anything else?
Well, the police say, I don't want to,
No, I think that was okay, right? The police and security.
well, I was going to say that one, let's talk about it a little bit more because 5 security officers, $30 an hour, 8 hours. So police security, let's see, I don't have my notes. I would go back
It's
to my notes.
it's an eligible expense, but I will tip you off that something is wrong with that.
Yeah, because see, I'm
Well,
looking,
the total isn't right.
oh,
There you go.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
1,400?
multiplying it. That's $240 times 5 is not $1,400.
Right. So you would reduce that down to the 1,200.
1,200, yeah.
That's eligible.
Yeah.
Check, so check check everything,
Yes.
Yes, check everything.
And that, yeah. Okay.
Check the numbers.
Anything else?
And 150 t-shirts, that looks good.
Well, the sale of the t-shirts, no. Let's see here, 150 shirts, 50 participants, 100 for sale at $6 per shirt.
That's $900.
That's 900, but I don't think those for sale ones are in. Why are they asking for $900?
Because it costs $900.
It costs $6 to make the shirt. So
It costs $900 to make it, but they're able to give them as,
No, but they're,
on the thing on there, it said something about it as a,
yeah, but
not a thank you. What
Only
was the wording on that?
participants are.
We need participants or attendants, so they could.
but they have to subtract the ones that they're selling.
That is correct.
They have to subtract the ones that are selling, that they're selling.
They cannot use lodger's tax to print something and turn around and sell it.
So if they did 150 shirts and gave them all away,
Then it's.
Then it counts.
then it
Then all
would count.
then all 900 count. But since
Right.
they designated 100 for sale, those 100 cannot count on the total.
So in this case, they could get reimbursed for the 50.
Right.
Right. So that would be 300.
Mhm.
And then there's one other thing in here,
On this, oh, okay.
some of totals. There's a,
Yeah, well,
Where are you at?
the whole thing is going to be wrong because the whole thing.
Yeah.
and that's, it's a moot point now, but half of 4790 is not 2,500, which was the funding request that was made.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's.
We'd have to just go through and add up
Right.
everything. again.
So if everything was eligible and you looked at that 4790, you would take that 4790, divide it in 2, and then that's what
Right.
you
Right.
would recommend or could recommend.
50%.
Yeah.
Right.
In this case, since there's so many changes, then we would have to take it, change that out. Adding it all up, it's $3,000.
So 1,500.
So 1,500.
Wait a minute, because he requested 2,500. they requested 20. Total request 50% of eligible, total 2,500.
So they're saying the total should have been 5,000 down there, but it was not.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. Which is, okay, 50%, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the gist of this practice here was very good because there was a lot of things, which was really good, Kevin. The totals, you just cannot count on, you
So
can't,
that page was of the eligible and ineligible would be smart to have right with us too, as we're looking at this, because for me to remember every one of those eligible and ineligible is rather difficult. So I think having that packet.
Yeah.
To
And
kind of.
that's kind of a purpose of looking at the packet in advance.
Right,
in advance,
right,
yeah.
Right. And if you need that, I would suggest printing off that slide
Right,
and keeping
right.
it with you.
That's what I think too.
You're going to give us,
Yes.
you're going to give me a copy? Yeah.
Yeah, I will email all these documents to you.
Yes, because that's what I would have right beside me to make
Yeah,
a
because like
comparison.
I know where it's at now. 'Cause
Right.
I've done it so long.
Right.
But it does take a while to
Yeah.
get it.
But I think we did pretty good. I mean, we kind of saw most of the stuff,
Give yourself a pat on the back then.
No, I'm saying we didn't do too bad,
For the
Yeah.
first time, yeah.
Yeah, that's
So then if we go to the next page, this is where your scoring information goes in. You'll notice that the first one is the return on investment for 25 points. On the real packets, there's actually a line underneath it where you actually put your score
Oh,
marks on it.
good.
And this is where you look at it, on however you determine what a return on investment is. Now, everybody has their own
Subject to your opinion.
on everything from here on.
Yeah.
So that's where you kind of have to find your niche on what it is you're doing. I do my version of it, but nobody else does the same.
Right.
So,
Right.
It's interesting because when I attended that meeting where it did incorporate the point system, it wasn't so you didn't include the blocks for comments and now you do. That's different. Right, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. And because.
no,
it was
it depends on how much they write in them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because this seems to be.
This is because
You're
they
giving
have
us-
this much space to put in as much information as they want, and some of them take up that entire space.
Oh,
I did not use that space because I was just typing up a sample.
Right.
All right, no worries.
But you also,
The system was rather,
at the bottom of page 5, you have an addition sheet.
there you go. That's what you know what, I stand corrected because now you pointed it out.
Okay.
I remember just this, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
I knew it was somewhere.
Yes,
I was thinking it was under each one.
thank you. Yeah. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, so I make a lot of notes anywhere that there's space to
Yeah.
make notes. And if I have to ask questions, one of the other things is reading through it. If they say, if they here, instead of we anticipate 500 participants, if it said we anticipate 1,500, but over here they're saying it's only 500.
Right.
And then some of their other
Right.
documentation has this other, then I start questioning and I start marking and highlighting because there's discrepancy. What is your final answer?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So then after that's done, we've scored ours individually. Is that your next step that you're going to talk about? Or can I ask now? You've got 5 people on the committee. How is it okay, so say we're like really far off and
Okay.
wacko with the numbers.
I know where you're going with this.
Okay, so how does it kind
More
of,
of a guidepost, but I'll let you remember, Steve.
Okay, so everybody has got their difference of opinion.
Right.
You're going to go ahead and make their recommendation. And let's say your score is really, really low.
Right.
So you think the event is really not worthy of taxpayer funding.
Right.
But you recommend that instead of providing them with 1,500, I'm going to give them 500.
Right.
You think it's a well worth event and they want to do it. You could either, during the discussion part of that, you can say, hey, and give the reasons why you think it's a better event and why it deserves more. And then you can do a friendly amendment. If she persuades you that it's a better event, then you can do a friendly amendment and adjust it. Or if nobody seconds it at all, it drops. And then somebody else can make a recommendation on what they think the amount should be.
somebody else from the committee?
Yes. Yes, only us. We're the
Right,
only ones allowed to
Right,
do that.
and I got that. I just was clarifying. So,
And that did happen in that last meeting,
Yes,
by the way.
because you do not have to second something. If nobody's in agreement with
right,
we don't have to second it. And then it drops and then somebody else can make a new motion.
okay. And you have 5 people, so you could have 3 that could do one and 2 that didn't think it was a very good event. So then how is it, then the question is, how then does it go to the finance committee with both of those sides being presented? Or are you just giving them one opinion?
One, it's got to be one.
Because it has to meet quorum or it has to be majority vote. So if you're saying 500, we've got a second, there's no amendments, that's what it's going with. We put it out. Is everybody in agreement? If the majority says yes, then it goes to the council at that. If the majority is no, then that motion dies. So then we have to take a
Go back
motion.
and redo it,
Yeah.
right?
And whatever motion is carried, the vote total is indicated with that. So for instance, at the finance committee, every abstract said the occupancy tax board voted 3-0 to recommend funding. If it was a 3-2 vote, let's say August 16th comes around and there's a 3-2 vote on something, it will be noted when it goes to finance committee that this was a 3-2 vote.
Right.
And
Right.
that may be one of the questions that gets asked. Why was this vote not unanimous? What was the dissension?
That was my original question, was to find out how it was presented to them. Is it going to present it, well, it's 5-0 on everything? And is there still going to be that, even though, yes, we moved it forward, that if somebody says 1 or 2 people, like when I was at the city council, you have the yes or the no.
And it still moves forward even if everybody is in a disagreement, right? But it can never come to something
How can it be moved forward?
because we're not a governing body.
Well, if you recommend that, yeah,
Okay.
if you recommend that something doesn't get funded, that moves on to finance committee.
Okay, so.
The finance committee can take away from request. It can add to a request. It can just accept it
Override
as
it.
is. Yes.
Yes.
Basically, the finance committee, they can rewrite it. Generally they'll accept the judgment. Sometimes they'll go a little bit less. Sometimes they'll go a little bit more.
Right.
And city council, they have the same privilege with finance committee recommendations. It's only an action once the city council approves it. Anything before that is a recommendation from an advisory board such as this one.
Right. And so like I could easily say I make a recommendation to not recommend this event or recommend funding this event.
This event, right,
And then that pushes it forward and that says to the finance committee that we did not recommend.
right. But once again, the finance committee meetings are open, so that person could come again and say, I want to plead my case and say that I'd like,
Yeah, they were way off because X, Y.
Right.
Which
Right.
did happen with COVID when that first round when we had to not award anybody. They went to finance and pleaded their cases again to try to get funding.
Right.
And then finance and then council.
Finance,
Yeah.
upheld the policy.
Right. Good. Okay. So good. It is very similar to other boards that I've sat on that works the same way. It's just a matter of,
Yes,
Robert's Rule of Order.
that's
so,
what it is.
yeah.
We have to follow that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are an advisory board.
Yeah.
Sometimes our things will go straight through a consent agenda, but we are an advisory board. All right, any other questions? And there's one other thing that we'll go through very quickly, and it's going to be.
Oh, thank goodness. That's where I wanted to understand. Yeah.
All right, and you'll see this is the lodgers tax collection and commentary report. Now, it says month reported April 2022. That is a typo because you'll see that we actually have the May presentation as well. And May is slightly down from April, but we're up from March and February. February, obviously a large event going on. But we're probably going to see a big uptick once the June and July reports come out because that's the UFO festival.
Mhm.
And then the lodgers tax collected by month.
So, and then the other thing to point out on the lodger's tax is that the 2 months behind. So anything that was in May was actually done in February,
March or February?
February, because they would have to file it in March. That gives you a month to put the reports together. So then it shows up in May. So yeah, so May's numbers are February. June's numbers will be March.
You're always 3 months in arrears.
You're always looking back a few months.
Yeah.
Because we give the lodgers 25 days to file the previous month.
Right. So technically what I said at the very beginning, when I was here, when you send out that note, technically we're not filing till August.
No, you're not.
So when you
you're not
sent it
filing.
out in June,
Yes,
it
you're
was like, it's changing, but it doesn't change for us until we file in August for July.
So
Because we're a
it's 2
month
months.
behind.
I'm sorry, I was in my head
Yes,
doing
2 months.
gross receipts tax and
Yeah.
gross receipts would be 3
Got
months.
it. Yeah.
I don't do lodger's tax, I do
Right.
DRT.
Right, right.
Okay, and you'll see that we got 123,902 in lodgers tax. That's a little bit up from April, even though we had
Where are you at, Kevin?
Collected by month.
even though we had more room nights in April, we had slightly more lodgers tax collected. The reasons for that, I am guessing that because there were a lot of events like the graduations, and so that tends to push the room rates up a little bit, which then pushes up the gross receipts, which pushes up the lodgers tax.
Well, I think you guys are doing better. It seems like people even that I communicate with Airbnbs are realizing that they need to pay their lodger's tax, which they have not. So I think there's continued to be a gradual upswing on that because of it. And we've also added a few more recently, new ones to our city. So.
And we're trying to educate the lodgers.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's getting them to realize that they're supposed to do that so they don't get a big fine at the end.
Well, and also the long-term stays after, was it 30 days? They don't have to pay lodger's tax. There's some rule in there if it's an extended stay.
Is that the same?
I think it's just for recording purposes. I don't think there's.
If they're staying more than 30 consecutive nights, it still gets, the lodger's tax is still collected. It just goes into a different.
Okay.
Different accounting type thing.
Okay.
For
tourism.
For sports tourism.
Yeah.
There are certain events. And that's why on the lodger's tax collection form, the reporting form, it has two different categories of room nights.
Honestly, I hate the way it's done because I have 2 rooms and I can have 40 some on that are just 1 or 2 or 3 nights where it looks funny because people would say, well, there's not 50 days in 1 month, but I can show 50 days.
Well, you're offering.
Because I offer 2 rooms and it's not specified that way. I have to add it in, room 1, room 2. Yes, it's totally more than 30 or 31 days for the month, but it's because of 2 rooms.
We've tried to explain the form a little bit for guests staying 1 to 30 nights, for guests staying 31 plus consecutive nights.
Right, which is a lot of our travel nurses and things that we get. And that's what, if you've got a 12-week contract person, they're going to stay that long and it's just your accounting that you do.
And we try to make the forms easier to comprehend. And usually the way that we do that is we find that people aren't comprehending something. So we'll have to change the form to help with the comprehension process.
Yeah.
Speaking of comprehension, very quickly, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I have to under these circumstances. Month reported April of 2022. This is 2 months in arrears. So if I am reading this,
And this would actually be the May finance report. That's just a typo in the. So this is.
Okay, even if it says May, just so that I understand this and going forward. So if I'm looking at the lodger's tax collected by month, July, am I looking at the real July? No. Well, July, so on the bottom, 62,000. Well, let's go to 2022.
This is the convention center fee. Let me go back to.
Oh, pardon me.
Okay.
Lodger's tax collected by month. $124,019. Is that July collected? Or no, it's 2 months in arrears, so it's
That
May.
would be for the June. So what we,
Because it's 2 months in arrear. This is what you're telling me. It's 2 months in arrear,
okay, yes, correct.
Yes.
right? Okay, it cannot be
Yes.
June.
What gets submitted, okay, basically for everybody, let's say for everybody who stays in May, a lodger compiles those, they submit them in June, and then those are deposited in July.
In July, right. So and it's because the brain is telling me this is July and it's in writing, but I know that this is 2 months in arrears. So this is truly, then it should say May, month reported May of
Oh, no, those are the proper month. They're categorized in the proper months.
Okay.
This is only wrong because it actually has May's numbers on it. Okay? That has nothing to do with the way the months are written.
Okay, but if I'm reading this, so these are.
So if you're looking at, since UFO Festival is always in July, and if you're thinking these are the numbers for UFO, that would be wrong.
Incorrect, right. I would say that this is it was paid in July, but for May, 2
Right.
months in arrear. That's what I
Right,
want to
yeah.
understand.
So this would be if we still had Hike It, Spike It, so we'd be looking at Hike It, Spike It numbers. And when we were trying to evaluate, this would be, okay, this is what we're showing.
Mhm. Right. Room 9's reported by. Is there anywhere, maybe I'm just a simpleton, so forgive me, but I just want to make sure I do this correct. In my mind, this is 2 months in arrear. It never says 2 months in arrear. There's nowhere, it doesn't have to, right? It doesn't have to because why?
It doesn't state it on the report, but that's something that's addressed at the beginning of when the report is presented.
Okay.
Whoever's doing it, it's usually Juanita's done here and it's done it.
Okay.
She'll say, these are it might be February, but these were actually collected in December.
Correct.
Or
Okay.
December.
And then something that may warp totals, and we discussed this in prior meetings. Sometimes a hotel will fall behind on payments. They won't make them for a few months, and they'll pay a 10% late fee.
Okay.
And sometimes hotels will miss multiple months in a row. We did have 4 hotels who had missed about 4 months worth of
It's a
payments.
change of staffs or something
Yeah.
too, didn't
Right,
they?
so that's why February is at a 67%, but
Right,
we don't have anything in February that.
That's
right.
That's
That
just-
justifies that.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and there's not, and it's difficult to account. It's difficult to account for that
yeah,
on this tracking system. But basically, that's when we receive the payment. It
Yeah.
might not necessarily correspond to the month that those were collected,
right.
Payments received.
but when the payments were received.
Okay. Thank you so much for enduring my.
And truthfully, this doesn't do anything for us because we're not collecting the money. We're not, except for the fact that we're looking maybe at a number and going, okay, we have, this amount of money's here, but that's not really change anything we do on the tax occupancy board. Correct. I mean, is there anything that
These are information items.
that's all it is? Yeah. That's what I'm.
And one reason that you guys are a little bit behind with this is because finance committee sees these before you.
Yeah.
So you're basically looking at the last finance committee meeting. So the information is probably going to be a week or two old.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's good for information and to see trends as well, because that's still going to be relevant from a bigger perspective.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
In terms
So
of historical events.
again, so if you're looking at, say, September, which would be UFO Festival, and it's growing, that means the events are growing.
Right.
So we're doing
Right.
better. But where we in 2021, we had COVID, we had no event, or
Right.
we had that partial.
Right.
It dropped.
But then once again, without knowing, you got this huge chunk from this hotel or whatever.
Right.
So to me, I look at that and I wouldn't lose any sleep over it because it doesn't really.
But the hotel's not paying. This is a whole new thing. In the past, it hadn't been that problem.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Right.
but now it's something that we're having to look at
Right.
February.
Right.
And then this is the convention center fee. The convention center fee is $2.50 per night. That is applied to the first 15 nights of a tenant stay. There are certain categories that do not have to pay the convention center fee. If you are offering 3 rooms or less, then you do not have to pay the convention center fee. So that way, most of your short-term rentals, your beds and breakfasts, they're going to be exempt from the collection center fee. But it will generally follow a similar trend to the lodger's tax disproportionately. We see the same late reporting, how it put the spike in February.
Spikes up, yeah.
Okay, so repeat that. So there's a convention center fee of $2.50 for what month? What months? What time frame?
For every month.
Oh, for every month?
Yes, the $2.50, that's per night if I was to stay in a hotel.
Mhm.
And and that's for the first 15 days. So if I stay 20 days at a hotel, the $2.50 fee is going to be put on my first 15 nights.
Mhm.
And then nights 16 through 20, that $2.50 is no longer reflected on
Got it.
my.
Okay.
All right, any questions on these?
Well, the only question is that the real April of 2022 or is that May?
Also,
May?
also the same.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. All right, and my rambling is done. Chairman Moore, the floor is yours.
All right, at this time, does anybody have any questions in regards to any of this?
Not right now.
All right, we are not open to public comments because it's not on the agenda. So at this time, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
May I have a second?
I second.
Any
sorry.
discussion?
I second it.
Being none, I call this meeting of the Occupancy Tax Board to end at 3:51 PM. Our next meeting will be August 16th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Kevin,
This conference will now be recorded.